In Florida, you have the legal right to die with dignity.
If she dies, there is going to be hell to pay.
Throughout this whole thing, Terri Schiavo became the poster child for every cause.
Reproductive choice and the right to die. It's two sides of the same coin.
A new documentary is re-examining a Florida case that ignited a deeply divided cultural debate across America. Terri Schiavo was only 26 years old when she went into cardiac arrest in her St. Petersburg home in 1990. Schiavo suffered brain damage and was in a vegetative state until her death 15 years later. A bitter battle between her parents and her husband over whether to end her life played out in courts for years. And the dispute quickly made its way into national headlines involving state and federal politicians, including then-President George W. Bush. Schiavo's story also forced the nation to reckon with questions surrounding end-of-life plans and the autonomy a person has over their own death. Joining me now, senior managing editor of Politico, Anita Kumar. Anita covered the Terri Schiavo case while she was a reporter at the St. Petersburg Times and is featured in this new documentary, Between Life and Death, which airs tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern right here on MSNBC. Anita, I'm so glad you joined us. Look, I have grown up in Florida, and the Terri Schiavo case loomed very large when I was there. Why do you think, though, and hooray for local newspaper and journalism, by the way, but why do you think that the case became such a kind of inflection point for a bigger cultural debate?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. When I first covered it, I covered it because there was an anonymous tip to go to this courtroom. I didn't know anything about it. And I think the family drama there, just what the case was about, sort of riveted people. And so lots of other reporters started to come. But I think it became such a bigger issue because it was about things that sometimes we don't like to talk about. You know, when does life end and who gets to make those decisions? And of course, as you referenced, that it really became a political issue. Everybody sort of saw what they wanted to in this case, and they used this case to push their own issues, whether that was, you know, anti-abortion or right to life, right to die. There were so many issues at play here, and everyone kind of used this case to show what they wanted to see.
And, you know, Anita, for those that did not know, then Florida Governor Jeb Bush actually enacted a law to have a feeding tube inserted for Terri Schiavo to continue her life. And then that law was deemed to be unconstitutional subsequently by the Florida Supreme Court at the time. But what did they say to you about the larger conversation about legislators, politicians getting involved in such personal choices like right to die?
I would think that today this wouldn't be so unusual because we've kind of changed how we are about cases like this. But, you know, at the time, it was so extraordinary that the Florida legislature and the governor, then the United States Congress, the president of the United States would get involved in one case and pass laws and sign into laws all of these things that just it was just extraordinary. We couldn't sort of believe what was happening, that one thing happened after another. And it became, Terri Schiavo became a household name because of this case and what this showed us. But, you know, this just goes back to the politics of this. People saw what they wanted to see and used this case to advance their cause. And that was not just Republicans, but we saw that a lot. You mentioned the president of the United States, the governor at that time, but the lobbying was so intense for them to get involved, for Congress, for the Florida legislature to get involved. And a lot of that was because of the anti-abortion movement. They saw this case as a way to talk about what they called the culture of life. So it wasn't just about abortion. It was about disabled people, elderly people. And they used this case to push that narrative that they have continued to push.
Yeah, and to that point, I've got less than a minute, but I wanted to say and ask you, Anita, the pro-life or the anti-abortion movement got so involved in this, and yet at the time and continuing thereafter, it's like 7 out of 10 Americans believe that politicians and others, even doctors, they really should not even be a part of the intimate decision to decide to do an end-of-life, decision. I mean, what does it say then that we actually haven't seen too much of a push in terms of legislation in other states? There are a number of states, but not a lot when it comes to legislation dealing with right to die.
Yeah, you're exactly right. There was a huge push right after this case or during this case, but a lot of those bills didn't go anywhere. I think that you saw one thing that's come out of this. I mean, there's probably several things, discussions more about living wills, but you did see a real focus on the judiciary. on judges, not just the Supreme Court, which we always talk about, but judges just across the country. And you've seen people really emphasize that. Now, this is sort of every day we see that criticism today, right? Especially with Donald Trump and some of his allies on his own trials. But at the time, I don't think you saw that as much. And it really got people thinking, look, it's not just the Supreme Court, but we need to really look at who's getting, elected and appointed to some of these judges or these courts across the country.